Hi, Mrs. Kennedy here. Today we are covering Unit 4, American Political Ideologies and Beliefs, Day 2, Public Opinion Polling. So you may be wondering what public opinion is. And public opinion is pretty much the general idea of what the public believes about a certain thing at any given time. And so this could be about a topic, it could be about a policy issue, it could be about a candidate, it could really be about anything, right? But how does the general overall public feel about this item at any given point in time? It's sort of like a snapshot of how the country is feeling about a particular thing. The most common one that you probably see on an everyday basis, and you don't even know it, is the presidential approval ratings. And so sort of like every day, every week, they release the approval ratings. And so this is how the public feels about the president and how they're doing their job at that given moment in time. So currently, as of January 5th at 3:39 p.m., Biden's approval rating is about 43%. That's pretty low, but it's not the lowest that any president has ever had, but that is a pretty low approval rating, right? That means that a majority of Americans are currently not happy with how President Biden is doing his job. That's just what that number tells us. So what are these polls used for? Like, what is the purpose of them? Like, why do campaigns use them? And so there are a lot of different polls that can be used for a lot of different reasons. But like the big three reasons why candidates and campaigns use them in our government system is for these three things. One, it measures how us, the voters, feel about the candidate's issues. Are we in favor or against these specific policy issues that these candidates are trying to campaign on? They can identify key issues among voters, right? If maybe one of the big issues that this candidate has isn't polling well, right? They can adopt other issues that maybe the voters are more interested in. Right? And they can sort of fine-tune their policy stances. Maybe if they weren't really clear on what they wanted to do in a certain policy, getting the opinion of the public or of voters might be able to give them a more narrow guidance on how they should move forward with particular policy goals. There are several different types of public opinion polls that I'm going to go over. Each of them serves their own individual purpose. So an opinion poll, right, gets a large random representative sample of the population, and those polls are used to estimate how we, the citizens, are feeling about an issue at any given time. Again, these are just snapshots in history, right? It's a picture of how the public feels about that thing at that time. All right, so if you take football players kneeling during the national anthem as an example, right after Colin Kaepernick knelt during the national anthem, public opinion on that issue was probably sky high for people being opposed to it. If you ask that question again now, you might get a different response, right? It's just a snapshot of that moment, of how the public feels about that thing at that time. Right, a benchmark poll is the first poll taken in a campaign, usually before, not necessarily before, but sometimes before somebody announces that they're running for office. And so the purpose of a benchmark poll is to get sort of like a baseline idea of where that candidate stands to determine whether or not they should announce their candidacy or what kind of strategies they might need to be successful in their campaign. Right? Also, it can be used to sort of gauge what the candidate's strengths or weaknesses are because it helps them determine if voters would vote for this person. Is this person even likable enough to get votes from people? And if they are going to get votes, what are the demographics of the person that's going to be voting for them? Tracking polls ask the same question from the same sample group over and over and over and over and over again. And so the tracking poll is trying to see if there have been any changes on opinions, attitudes, perceptions, how they feel about the candidate, how they feel about issues over a period of time. So you can sort of see in this example here, it says, if the 2016 presidential election were being held today. And at the bottom, you can see you have dates. Right? And so this question was asked over an 8-week period, right, to see if there were any changes. Right? And as we can see, there were very minimal changes in this particular poll. But you can tell that it's a tracking poll because it's given you these dates, and they're asking that same question over and over and over again. An entrance poll is performed on election day, but before people go vote. And so maybe they're waiting in line at the ballot place and you have pollsters out there asking questions. Hey, you're about to vote for president. Would you like the next president to have experience in politics or be an outsider? Right? So they're trying to sort of gauge who you might vote for. Exit polls are also performed on election day, but this is after you've cast your ballot, after voters have voted. And so like they're leaving the voting place and there's somebody standing outside the door saying, hey, who did you vote for? The purpose of this poll is so that the media can essentially try to determine who's going to win the election before initial election results are announced. Now, the problem with exit polls is that these tend to have the biggest error rates because people lie. Right? And we really kind of saw that in 2016. Right? A lot of people did not want to admit to a pollster or somebody else that they voted for Donald Trump for president. And so all of the polling leading up to the 2016 election indicated that Hillary Clinton was going to win and win by a lot. Right? As we can tell, that did not happen. Right? Donald Trump was elected president. So that's because these types of polls do lend themselves to people being unwilling to tell the truth. Now, in all of that, what makes a good poll? You need large, random, representative samples. Right, if you're only polling 30 people, that's not a large enough sample. Right, if you are only polling people with landlines, right, that's a very small niche. You're going to get elderly people and stay-at-home parents, right? Maybe some people that work from home that have landlines. right? That's not going to be really representative of the population. You might get a really good random representative sample of elderly people and stay-at-home parents, but it's not going to be representative of the population. Right? Would you want to poll only women in a poll? No, because again, it's not random or representative. You want your poll to represent the people who live in the country. So that way you know how the general public is feeling about something. So you need to make sure that your poll includes people of all ages, different jobs, different incomes, different religions, different ethnicities, different backgrounds, right, to really make sure that you're getting a good picture of what the public feels about a certain issue. Lastly, you need to pay attention to the margin of error. Good polls have a margin of error of plus or minus 3 to 4. That's sort of taking into account that people might lie. So if you see a poll that has, let's say, like 53 to 49, 53 are in favor, but 49, oh, that doesn't really add up, 47. 53, 47. All right, so 53 to 47. 53 are in favor of an issue, 47 are opposed for an issue, but your plus or minus is 3. That means that 53 really could be 50. And that 47 really could be 50, and you don't really know how the public feels. Right? And so you really also need to pay attention to those margins of error. If it's above 4, I would say it's probably not a very reliable poll. All right, come to class with questions. Can't wait to see you. See you next time.